So hi everybody, and thanks for coming along. I've written to a lot of the TDs and senators at length about this, and I believe a lot of you have read the report and have some prior knowledge, but I'm going to summarise quickly our story and our proposal here today, and specifically thank John Brady for having us up here. It was more of an all guns blazing sort of petition last week, but I got a written response from Minister Harris in the meantime, which changes the situation a little bit. It still requires input from our Dail and our senators and commitments. So I'm going to speak about newborn screening expansion campaign, and then it will be followed by a piece about rare diseases. So who we are, we're all here together anyway. My name's Les. Linda and my boys were supposed to be here today, they couldn't make it out. So my boys are an MLD, and I'm going to speak about newborn screening. Rare Disease Ireland representatives are here to speak about their needs. They're representing 300,000 people here living in Ireland who will have a rare disease at some point in their life, so that's significant. And Baby June and her family are going to speak about their own experiences recently and their disease skips and little bit newborn screening. So we have 3 clear items to discuss and 3 requests. So that's why we're here. So the newborn screening I'll elaborate on, the introduction of the law, which is the key to that. I'll explain that in a second. And the support and recognition for rare diseases in Ireland and the larger community. So this is us, Cogs and Kiwi, as John said, that's Cathal and Kieran. That has a terminal sort of prognosis left untreated. Cathal was 2.5 when we discovered it. It was already too late for him to be treated. But Kieran, because his brother identified the problem, we did a genetic test on Kieran, discovered he had the same, and we had to leave for Italy to undergo treatment, which was just a trial for this condition. We stayed there for 6 months. Much of it was in isolation. Kieran had a bone marrow transplant and chemotherapy and the works, and we had a really tough time there at that time, needless to say. The treatment we received was researched and developed by Telethon Italia. They're a huge charity organisation. They raise 60 million a year in Italy, and they spend it all on research for diseases that have other pharmaceutical companies wouldn't be interested, not financially viable, but there's good promise in the research. They plough on with that and try and get to the treatment phase, and that's where we got our treatment. So now we're 2 years on. Kieran had a really tricky kind of treatment throughout that duration. It was up and down, but his latest 2-year checkup was showing good signs of stability, and really we have good hope that he'll survive this ordeal, where Cathal is very close to his end at the moment. He was 5 on Monday, so that's what we're to expect. So 8 weeks ago, my wife said to me, she asked me to give her credit for the idea, that why don't you ring up Professor Yudi and ask him how they're going with the screening for MLD. We were talking about how miserable that disease it was. So I did, I rang him up. He's in charge of the program we attended, and a floodgate of information opened, and this news, I don't know, it deeply affected me. I'll go on to explain it all, but it's a fantastic opportunity, and I really believe that we need to go as hard as we can to avail of it. So what am I talking about? Newborn screening. Well, this is the heel prick test and the little blood spot test they do on a card within 72 hours of birth. They send it away to a lab. I think it's in Temple Street. They test for 8 diseases here in Ireland. Here's a picture of the world at the moment. Italy is at the very top, 40 diseases screened for. The US, the federal government recommends 35, different states vary. Other countries, as you read down, are Hungary 26, Switzerland 13, and we're close to the bottom. We're way behind best practice. We're screening for 8, and our system is closely linked with the UK system, who are screening for 9. So this is noted also in an EU report which was done in 2011, that this kind of lack of governance around this area, lack of common policy within the EU is an issue. That's the latest report, and nothing has changed since then. Italy have developed this system, and they're trying to now peddle it, I suppose, throughout the EU through different channels at the moment. So why did they strike out ahead of everyone so quickly? They have 15 regions there. They were testing for different amounts of diseases in different regions. It was kind of an unfair situation where if you're born in one location, you may miss out on a disease being diagnosed. So in order to regularise their whole system across the 15 regions, they campaigned at length for a while until they got the support and the attention of their politicians. It was initially started by an MLD family, the same as us, so all of what I'm doing now, I'm copying a successful precursor to it that all happened in Italy, almost word for word. So I'm putting my faith in that. So this law, what does this do? It's in Italian, obviously, but roughly it says that every child born in the country has the right to be screened for and treated for any condition for which there is a treatment, a viable treatment. So that initial list of metabolic diseases was 40. Their HSE was compelled to kind of roll it out across the 20 centres in 15 regions over the course of a year. So they increased from 4 disease screens to 40 in 1 year across 20 centres, and had huge success with it. Each of these conditions has a validated screening test, a treatment and care plan, and a cost benefit analysis done for it. And this is all, the data is packaged and ready for us to assimilate should we choose to do so. So, and all of this was rolled out at a total cost in their country of 38 million, which works out at €50 per child, and scaled down to Ireland's size, it would be roughly 4 to 5 million initial investment and 3 million to run thereafter. And it goes on to save hundreds of millions. So what happened? What were the benefits of this in Italy? So they published their first year's data in February, how this has worked for them. So they've identified 350 children and treated them across the 20 regions and across the broad spectrum of 40 diseases. They found occurrences of each of the diseases at different rates. They've saved hundreds of millions of euros, in the high hundreds of millions they estimate, because of the chronic care and the parent support and support throughout life of a chronic case versus a preemptively treated child, you know. They have a full set of data for all the rare genetic diseases occurring in their country, which is infinitely useful, and it's something that we do not have and can't get. So that's a brilliant kind of byproduct of it. And because it's protected by law, they have to proactively revise it. So every 2 years, they'll look outwards and see is there new screenings being developed, and they'll adopt those immediately. Our disease, MLD, is in pilot phase at the moment, and SCID also is being adopted in coming months, because now they have the capacity to boost this every time a new one comes along. So it puts an end to this kind of unfair adding piece by piece, having me and others like me coming to ask you guys to add another condition to the list, one that's hurt us so badly, and we gain nothing from asking these questions, but the next person will. That's unfair, I'd say, to say the least. So no more petitioning, I've got written, and look, it's been hailed as a massive success. I speak to these people on conference calls, and they're visibly excited and delighted that I have got what they are now assembling to pedal out. I got it early, and I seem to be making progress. They're regularly on the phone to me, and just I have all of that support behind me that I hope will rub off on you guys. I have written offers from them to share this with Ireland. So Telethon, massive organisation, 30 years there. The head of the Telethon organisation has.
Sorry, is it spelled the same as the telethon on television?
Yeah, they're actually the original, the name comes from, they did the telethons originally on the television in the 90s and that. So we were actually on a couple of those. We've been on the television over there 4 or 5 times to help them with their charity raising at Christmas time and that. But they're the guys. I have a letter there from the head of the programme in their equivalent of the HSE, Professor Lamarca, openly stating that he was delighted with the interest, and he's inviting us to come over and take all of this data and for us to see their labs. So what would this mean for Ireland? Well, there's 62,000 births per year. Last year, I think, 1 in 1,250 will have one of these 40 diseases. So that's 50 children in this country every year, 1 per week, okay? Identified and treated, saved, like our kids haven't been. Hundreds of millions saved in their long-term care. A quick diagnosis and treatment. Again, saving us, saving others from what we've gone through. No more petitions like this one, because it's proactively revised, it looks after itself and it's protected into the future. And the valuable data which comes from all those tests, look, it has a running cost of 3 million per year. That's a quote from the company who supplied the machines to me, estimating the running cost based on our population size, and they do the full package. So they're big claims, and there's loads of lives will be saved and affected, and huge good can come from this. It's massive, it really is. It might take the perspective of a father or family of a child who is dying to really realise the value that can be taken from this. So that's what I'm here to try and portray for you guys to listen to, okay? So my support for all these big claims in writing, Telethon, the head of Telethon, backing up all of the figures that I've stated. For may19, which is the Patients Association for Metabolic Diseases over there, our equivalent of the RDI, but they have big office and staff and run a media campaign relating to all this in Italy. The head of the newborn screening program, Professor Lamarca, that's the point of contact for us, and he's expecting our call. Okay? They've rolled it out across 20 centres, as I said. They've made all the mistakes, they've refined it, they can give it to us as a gift. I also have the official documents relating to the law. They were professionally translated, and I got them yesterday from Italy. They're government documents relating to the decree. They're going to be useful to our guys in working deeper into that. And this enthusiasm that I referred to before, the Professor Lamarca called it a hen that keeps laying golden eggs. He said it's black and white. You have to just hand it to these people. Any medical profession will understand it and immediately adopt it. It's superior in every way to our current system, and it saves a life every week. Okay? For nothing. From Ireland, now as I said, I'm not so gung-ho today because I got a response from the Minister. And I'm going to show that to you in a minute, okay? So it's middle of the road in my view. I have the notional support from the HSE, subject to the new National Screening Board decision. That's from speaking to senior people within the HSE, and that it's hypothetically possible for us to engage in this immediately, okay? If they get direction from the government. I have the support of all our network of medical professionals in Able Ireland and Laurelin and all the people who know us and look after us. Go for it, Les. It's brilliant. Best of luck. We'll support you any way we can, okay? And I've got about 50 or 60 positive responses from senators and TDs about acknowledging the report and the stuff that I sent, and acknowledging that there's merit to it and that they might help, and that's you guys here today. So I also have a long letter from Lutheran and an invite up to the house next week, which was nice. And between us, we have, I think, 12 or 13,000 signatures on our petitions for my disease and for baby Juniper's disease, not counting the other 30. Okay? And we have the support here of the core of about 3,000 families who live with rare diseases in Ireland. So that's like 1 in every village amongst all of you guys. They're constituents of yours. You should go out and find them. So this is what Minister Howard said. He's going to immediately contact the Minister of Health and meet her in the coming weeks. Now I relayed this to them, and they sent it to their minister and the senator who introduced this law. And I received an email back, delighted. They can't wait to meet him. They're going to be fully briefed and ready. They're going to meet him in Luxembourg. That's something that was already arranged. So that's brilliant to start, okay? But there's going to be a delay, unfortunately, because of the Scally report and the requirements. We are in the process of appointing a National Screening Board, which is due to be assembled by late 2019. That's what Alan was saying to me. That's very important. We need transparency and governance in this area due to recent debacles, but it's a shame that we will have to wait for that to be appointed. Also, that board will have big agenda of work. They need to tackle all of the screening issues. So how do we get a head start? Minister Harris said he'd inquire if they can shorten that timeline, and also that he would appoint existing resources to investigate this, absorb the data, try and package it up neatly so that the newborn screening or the National Screening Board can assess it quickly, you know, try and get a head start so the prep work is done for them. And also a bonus item there is something that I discovered in recent weeks, is that he's going to review the implementation of the National Rare Disease Plan 2014-2018, and Vicky's going to speak about that. I also I met Minister Fillion McGrath here a couple of weeks ago and talked about the bill and the law, and he emailed me back and said that he'd been speaking to Minister Harris. That's the amount of it. I don't know where it's gone since then. That was this week. So in my view, that should be like a cross-party supported. I don't know how these things work, but it'll have to be a unanimous vote for me, unless there's any vampires in the building here or anything like that, you know. So yeah, I have another point here that I think everybody that knows will agree that, you know, as people, Irish people are generally compassionate and charitable and good to one another, and we've experienced that and lived off that for the last 2.5 years. And I believe that the introduction of a law like this just reflects that nature, you know, and that's the way it should be. That we're kind of left to look after ourselves. Really, it's the government's responsibility to look after the most vulnerable in society, and none more than newborn children who have a disease they don't know about, that we could save them if we wanted to, you know. So is this enough? I don't know. I'm not a reasonable person, and I've been deeply affected by what's happened to me. I see what's planned, okay, months, 6 months, 9 months, maybe 12 months, that's probably optimistic even. That's 50 children, okay, 1 a week. What's possible? I know that it's possible because I've spoken to the company that provide the equipment to have this upgrade our lab and have it up and running within 8 weeks. I wonder, is it possible to do that as a trial in lieu of the National Screening Board being appointed? Immediately we're going to begin to save lives, even if we're just trialing it out and getting the gist of the equipment. You know, it is very simple. Because again, look, I'm just copying what they've done in Italy. It's clear as day. We also have to take advantage. Now, the Minister said he was going to use existing resources to contact them. It would be easy not to do that and wait for the National Screening Board to be assembled and then address it. But look, I want you guys and the rest of the government to pressure them and hold them to that promise that we really need to get over there quickly, because it's about to become mainstream and shared amongst Europe, and there's going to be a queue outside the door for this information, where we can lead by example internationally by copying what they've done and being an example for smaller countries with a smaller system to use this model. Another thing is they've invited me back in September to present to, they're having a global workshop there with 30 countries, with people like me, and they're, for this purpose alone, to go back to their countries and lobby for the Italian model of newborn screening. So now they want me to come back, and this is a pilot run of what they're looking for in other countries. And I wanted to throw the gauntlet down to Ireland and the Irish politicians. Can we get this sorted quickly and provide an example, you know, to others that, look, Ireland looked at this, they listened, and they saw the good in it, and they immediately jumped to action. They saved the kids' lives, you know. That's how urgent you have to be when your child is critically ill, like mine have been, okay? So, you know, what did I do? Kieran was diagnosed on Friday. It was called to ministers that day, and the book was thrown out the window. We got a passport in 3.5 hours. We had our funding approved that evening. We flew out on Monday morning. We stayed there for 6 months, bringing Cathal with us. He was gravely ill at the time, and lived in a hotel for 6 months through a really bad time. That was the worst time. It's been a little better since we come home, and things aren't too bad. I don't want to paint too grim a picture. The guys are good, but that was very difficult, and that was necessary for me to save his life, and it was enabled by our government to save that boy's life. And now there he is, like, he's walking around now and attending school, and that's his sister Holly, and at least we have hope for the future. On the other hand, this is Cahill. And with Cahill we were patient, and we waited for the HSC, and we waited a year and a half, and it was too late. So I know that in 8 weeks we could have a lab set up that would have identified Cahill at birth and treated him, and he'd be cycling on a bike around the place. He'd be totally unaffected by this disease. And that kills me. So I'm trying to absolve myself of this responsibility and get this cross off my back onto your backs. It's a moral issue, and swift action will save lives in this case, okay? There he is, that was him at his peak. He was walking around, he was talking, he was 2 years of age at that time, he was struggling with his walker, and then he slowly got worse and lost his ability to speak and to eat. And that's last year. He was paralysed and peg fed at that time, and now he's still able to come out of the house. And he's suction machines and oxygen and nebulizers, and it's hard work at the moment. And he'll continue to lose his sight and his hearing, and eventually he'll just stop living. So that's the fate. So all of this to me is about Cahill, and that he's suffered enough for 50 children, in my view, already. And he led the way to save his own brother's life, and he's led us down this path to discover this crazy revelation of information just landed on my lap, that he could be the catalyst to save many more like him and put an end to his disease. And Irish people dying because of it. You know, there's 2 or 3 a year born in Ireland with Hall's disease, okay? 1 of the 40. So I'm doing it for him. I promise I'll do my best, and that's what I'm doing. I also promised you a message from the Pope. I don't know if you caught that. He's a friend of the Martins. We've written to him and we've got a response a couple of times. This time he wrote at length about the boys, which I'm going to keep to myself mostly. But he was aware of Decree 167 in Italy and the good it's done. Needless to say, he's approved of anything that lessens human suffering in the world, you know. And this is my last little piece to lead into the Rare Disease Plan 2014. So this is a document that I discovered in recent weeks, which is a brilliant read, but it's fictional at the moment. You know, there was no implementation budget for anything, and there's 48 points on a list in that, and there's only 2 things been implemented. Vicky's going to elaborate on that. But look here, right, the weakness of our current national newborn screening programme. Newborn screening is an essential public health responsibility not currently mandated by law and lacking appropriate legislative framework in Ireland, but we're going to sort that out. There is no health economics evaluation of newborn screening. Well, I had them from Italy, so I'll give you them. There is a lack of patients advocacy groups, in particular for newborns, and a lack of public understanding of the merits of public health consequences and appropriate newborn screening for the Irish. Well, that's me. I might be the only advocate for newborns and newborn screening in the country. So we have an advocacy group. If our guys all help us out, we help each other. Difficult economic conditions in the health system make it difficult to reform this. Well, we have a new hospital coming, and we've plenty of money since 2014. So a small amount of investment in this is going to give you the best value of any investment you can make in this country at the moment in terms of the return you'll get for it and the amount of effort required. Okay? So, Rare Disease Ireland are going to say peace now. I've discovered in recent weeks these great people doing great work on their own, each for their individual charities, which are their own kids. That's what we are all here, parents of terminally ill kids, helping one another. Okay, the people that fall flat on the face in life, and the government plough on, and the only other people to help us are the other people that fell flat on their face. That's the reality of the situation. And they're doing fantastic work, and I've been amazed by what they're doing. But look, as a project manager and somebody who works in this type of organizational capacity, you know, I walked into the door and saw what's there, and there's zero support for these people from the government. There's no allocation of budget for them. Vicky runs Rare Disease Ireland on her own, and I've been really speaking to the staff in Italy on conference calls, 8 of them there, their media team, their parent support team. All of these facilities are provided, and they're in this book. The plan is great, but we haven't done anything on it. We were talking about the green wave. They were talking about, and the Taoiseach recognising that green wave. Well, there's 300,000 people living with rare diseases in Ireland that nobody cares about or knows anything about. So we might launch a public information campaign, and like they did in Italy, and start this rare disease wave so that we get a bit of recognition and we get some of the things that have been planned for us and we haven't got. I couldn't help but notice kind of a twisted irony to show parents who have kids that they want but can't have a plan of all the things they should have but can't have. Like, that's just mean in my view. Also, Alan, who's been here, I thought there'd be more here to take a vote on this, but it has been petitioned to have Rare Disease Day here in the Dail next year. It's the end of February. I believe he's been speaking to the Taoiseach about that. I was going to ask for the support of as many people here, there aren't that many, to let us come back in here with our families and have a couple of hours of a look around and a cup of tea and listen to what you've done for rare diseases in Ireland. So I'm relying on the people that are here to take this message back to their own parties and say, we're not asking for much in any of these three asks. There's very little to do, and I believe you won't find better value on the three items that we're talking about for the people at the very bottom that are forgotten about. And there's an illusion of progress in this country, and there's people being left by the wayside. And that's what we're here to speak out about. Newborn screening, we have to do it. Bring in the law, we can do that quickly. And rare diseases, just open our eyes and see that there's people like begging for help, and they're helping each other, but there's nobody enabling that. That's my piece. I hope it didn't go too long. Sorry, I meant to say, I wasn't trying to rub this in anyone's faces, but it's recognition from a medical professional and the Taoiseach. This is last year's Rare Disease Day. Up to 300,000 people in Ireland will be affected by a rare disease in their lifetime. We will do better in helping these patients and families in Ireland. So he's the boss around here, isn't he? So can we call him out on these promises and have a little bit of action? Okay?